Episode 10 of Keepin' It a Hundo is an international episode. It's also a woman's episode, and it's also the first episode I've had more than one guest. Today's guests are Jayne Caldwell and Quincy Hewitt of the Chicago Bliss. They play football in the LFL. That's the Legends Football League, formerly known as the Lingerie Football League. Jayne is originally from Australia, and Quincy is from New Zealand. They're here to discuss their path from Australia to the States to play football. Jayne's the quarterback, and fans love her mobility and the smell of her game-worn socks. Quincy plays offensive line, the LFL 7-on-7, so she's one of three women that protect Jayne. She's a tight end. And if the price is right, she'll mail you a pair of her game-worn panties. I'll be honest, I was a little skeptical when I first heard about this league years ago until I saw a game on TV, and now I've seen a bunch of them in person. These women can play. They're fast, they're strong, and they're beautiful. They're also my girlfriend's teammates, so I've gotten to know them over the past couple years. So enjoy the conversation with my mates, Quincy and Jayne. Got a game coming up next weekend. You play LA.
Yes.
LA hasn't been here in a couple years.
Yeah, that's correct. Chicago used to be in the Western Conference, but ever since they've been in the Eastern Conference, I don't think they've played each other that much. But yeah, our game is on Saturday, April 14th at 7 p.m. at the Sears Center.
Yeah, so come and check it out. We're going to smack LA.
Tickets are cheap too, so come on out.
LFL Talk, so they're like this podcast that, you know, interview girls. So whoever's playing that week, they'll interview one girl from one team and one girl from the other team. And so at the end, they're like, so it's an interview, and then at the end, they're like, they do a quiz to see how, like,
this one was on. It was usually LFL history. They did NFL history, and I was like,
so I got 8 out of 10.
Oh, you don't know anything about the NFL?
Yeah, I got 8 out of 10.
On the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
And-
had a little bit of help from our. So I had the live thing on. Okay, so one of her questions, what was that?
Who was the Buffalo Bills kicker that missed the field goal in Super Bowl 25?
Yeah, I know
and
that
someone
one.
wrote,
Someone wrote Ray Finkel, and Jay was like, Ray Finkel.
and that's the guy from
Ace
Ace
Ventura. Laces up.
Hi.
Everyone was dying.
Yeah,
High
and then they
tower.
finally gave us the answer. It was Scott Norwood, or is it Scott? Or something?
Scott Norwood.
Yeah, Scott Norwood. Yeah, but it was too late. So
Wide right against the Giants.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't do too well.
you did pretty well. You knew the first one, which was who won the Super Bowl.
Who won the
last year.
Super Bowl?
Welcome to Keepin' It a Hundo. I'm here today with Quincy Hewitt and Jayne Caldwell of the Chicago Bliss.
Hey.
How
Hey
you do-
guys.
You might not be able to tell both of them apart unless you're very good at deciphering Aussie accents from New Zealand accents. Quincy's from New Zealand and Jayne is from Australia. Where exactly are you from in New Zealand, Quincy?
I'm from a very small country town called Kaitaia, which is at the top of the North Island.
Yeah.
But I think that my accent, I lived in Australia for 10 years and then I've been on and off in the States. This is my 3rd year. So I think my accent is very...
Yeah,
Like-
actually, you know what's funny? When she talks to her family back home, I can hear your New Zealand accent come out a lot more when you're talking to your family.
That's common in the States with
Yeah.
people from up north that have Boston accents or New York
Yeah.
accents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you've had a few too many drinks, I think.
Yeah.
And the Kiwi comes
The
out.
Māori comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, but I feel like if someone from back home heard me, they would be like, you don't sound Kiwi.
Yeah.
Jayne, and what's your...
Well, I was actually born in Bangkok, Thailand. I moved to Australia when I was 3 years old, and I grew up in Brisbane, Australia. So, yeah, not a major city, but it's still...
No, I think that's one of the ones people in the States know about.
Okay.
There's only about, 4 or 5 cities in Australia that people know about. So what bothers you the most about living in the U.S.?
I mean, how honest can we be?
Let's go. Give us a
Keeping it
list.
100, that's what it is.
Yeah, you need to.
I find some, I'm not going to say all because it's not, some Americans are very extra with their things, and I feel like it doesn't need to be that way. I don't know, maybe in Australia we're
Kind
a
of
lot
dramatic, make
Very-
a big deal out of
more...
nothing.
Yeah.
Like we're super chilled, so like
Yeah.
nothing like really gets to us.
Yeah.
So like we think, but I think it's funny. Like
I think it's funny
sometimes,
too.
Like watching how people react, I'm like, why does that bother them so much?
Yeah, so I think that's one thing that we've noticed, just because in Australia people are so laid back and chill. When we come here and we're like, oh, whoa, like that's just not even something to get mad about or an issue. But yeah, that's one thing that I've noticed.
What was the toughest thing you had to adjust to when you came to the U.S.? Maybe there was a certain type of food you were missing, or the guys were really different, or I don't know. Go anywhere with it.
Well, actually, yeah, the guys are very different.
Yeah, but that was a positive thing. Like, that wasn't a hard adjustment.
More aggressive here?
Yeah, which I think is really nice because back home in Australia, you know, guys are very standoffish and like they're nowhere near as forward. Here, if a guy likes what they see or they're interested, they'll let you know, which is nice. Like, it's, you know, it's very straight up, direct approach.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed is guys in Australia, if they hit you up and you don't write back, they'll just drop it. Whereas here, if you don't hit them back, they'll be like, excuse me, hi, question mark, question mark.
Persistence.
Yeah, 8 messages later, like, hey, how are you going? And you know what? Sometimes it actually works. Because on the 8th time, you're like, you know what? This guy, I kind of like him. And
yeah, and they're very persistent. But you know what? If the roles were reversed and a girl did that, they'd be like, oh, this girl is crazy.
This girl is crazy. Like, why is she hitting me up? And no,
yeah, and
like,
she doesn't get the hint. Whereas, like, guys don't get the hint.
yeah.
So they like to drink a little bit over there, and you know we like to drink here. But where do you think it's a little more? Where are they more wild?
I think that here the drinking culture, people drink like all the time, whereas there I think they have a really big culture of like binge drinking. So like people drink like excessively. Although you kind of get that here in Chicago as well. People just write themselves off.
Yeah, but
Write
any
themselves
occasion
off.
they'll just write themselves off. You know,
Yeah.
like they have any like sort of occasion, St. Patty's Day, like any
National
like,
Donut Day.
National
here.
Pancake
They
Day.
look
like,
for a
yeah,
reason
they
to
look for a
drink.
reason.
Yeah.
In Australia, we have like this thing called Mad Monday, which is like the after a rugby grand final or a AFL grand final, like any kind of sporting grand final, they'll do this Mad Monday where they just get so drunk and
Get dressed up. It's pretty cool.
it's pretty cool. It's fun.
So we're gonna play a game today while we record the podcast. We have a bottle of Patron Silva, and anytime you speak with an Australian accent, you have to drink.
Let's get loose.
So here's the first one.
Cheers.
So are we drinking this whole thing or sip?
Do that Aussie thing. What's that?
Aussie,
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 Aussie.
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
There you go. To that. Salute.
Oh, okay, so we are drinking the whole thing.
Oh
okay.
yeah, that's a shot, Jayne.
I'm glad that we Ubered here.
Oh, I knew you guys would. So I have a question I've never asked the few Australian people that I know. Australia is a debtors colony. It was set up with like criminals and people who were sent there from European countries, right? Well, you know, there's
Convicts.
some already
Yeah, we call them
Aborigines there and
convicts.
whatnot, but convicts. Can you trace your roots back to convicts and say my great grandfather was a bank robber or something? Like, how far does it go back?
I don't really know. My father was adopted, so I only know my family history from his adopted side. I don't know his like actual parents. So I know from my dad's side, but they're originally from Scotland. So they migrated. They were from Scotland. They migrated to England, and then they came to Australia from there. So that's all I know. But I don't know what they did.
But were they part of the criminal element that got
yeah,
sent there,
so-
or they were there after that?
Yeah, I don't know
When it was already established.
if they were settlers or if they were convicts, because two types of people came over to Australia during that time. The settlers, so they were the people, the farmers, the people who worked and they were free. They weren't convicts, and then the convicts came over who built the roads, the buildings.
And what years approximately was Australia established?
Oh, wow, this is a history test.
We don't know. The last time I learned this was grade 5.
But I think these convicts got a really bad rep because back then, like, you could be starving and you stole a loaf of bread,
Right.
and then
and
you
you
were
went
sent
to-
on that ship. Like, I
Right.
mean, you're not a hardened criminal, you're hungry.
Yeah, you're
so,
hungry.
like,
You weren't raping and
yeah,
No.
and pillaging and stuff
Pillaging
like
the
that. So I
villages.
think obviously there were some bad people that came
Yeah.
through, but I think a majority were like, you know,
We're
they
just desperate.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it was hard times there. So it was probably a blessing.
It was a blessing because they got to come to a new country. They eventually served out their sentence and got to live as a free man in Australia in a new land.
But I feel like also I've read some stories about it, like those early settlers, like coming from England to Australia, it was like torture because it's very
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
Lots of dangerous animals. There was nothing.
Yeah, the Aboriginals as well. They had to fight with them.
So Jayne plays quarterback for the Chicago Bliss.
I
do. Let's start with you, Jayne. You bounced around the league a little bit. You've been in Atlanta, LA.
And then Chicago, yeah. So I obviously didn't start at quarterback in Atlanta. But so I played running back, and I was their backup quarterback. I actually never got any reps as a quarterback in a game situation, but I did play running back, which I didn't mind. It was my first year in the league in the US, so I was fine sitting back learning from the starters ahead of me. But then the opportunity came up where I had the chance to go to LA and actually start as a quarterback. So I was like, in my mind, I flew all the way here. There's no point me sitting on the bench and taking second team reps. So I moved to LA and I got the start, and that's where I reunited with Quincy.
Where did you guys first meet?
Well, we actually played against each other in LFL Australia. So I played for the state that I lived in, which was New South Wales. She played for Queensland, and my team won.
Yeah.
I always have to
it was
bring that up.
it was the opening game, so we played in the opening, like to open up the season. We were the opening game because Queensland and New South Wales are rivals.
Yeah, and it's
Big
really
rivalry.
funny because
huge rivalry.
I'd only ever seen photos of Jayne like through league advertising, and I've called her Pocahontas, and I was saying to our defense like, take Pocahontas' head off.
It fits.
Yeah, and it's so funny. Like I wanted them to kill Pocahontas, and now it's my job to protect her. So it's like funny.
I'm like
how-
always like how the tables have turned. No.
And Quincy, you started out playing in Australia, and then what's been your path to the Chicago Bliss?
Okay, yeah, so I had a great season, my first season in Australia, and I absolutely loved the sport. So I trained really hard for the second season, which was cancelled, unfortunately, and I took a whole year off, and I was kind of contemplating what I wanted to do, and it was either quit playing football for good, you know, I was getting a little bit older and like deciding what I wanted to do, and it was like, no, I really want to have one more crack at it. And it's really funny because a lot of people said you won't be able to compete with the American girls, like it's harder and faster and they're stronger. And I came out and I was lucky to start with the LA Temptation, which was really, really cool experience. I loved living in LA.
You played for LA before Jayne did?
No,
Or the same
that was
season?
Same season.
Okay.
She actually signed with them before I did. So I was still with Atlanta when she got to LA.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did my first season there and then came out to Chicago.
So how did you guys get involved in football, American football? How did you even know the rules when you started playing, or you didn't?
I didn't at all. I mean, my dad loves American football. He does he's into seafood, so he does a lot of stuff in Seattle and Boston. You've probably heard of the Boston Seafood Show. I don't know if you have. Yeah, so my dad used to go to that. He used to have a booth there all the
He's
time.
a seafood distributor, right?
Yes. So he spends a lot of time in Seattle and Boston. So he loves the Seahawks and the Patriots. So he watched.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he would watch that a lot, and I would see him watch it, but I never really got into it. And then my best friend back home in Australia, Alicia, her auntie started like a league, kind of similar to LFL, but it's like more of a social setting kind of thing. They needed more players, and they asked me to come out and play. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And I went out and played, and I enjoyed it, and I loved it. And then the LFL came out to Australia. I tried out and made the team. So that's how I got into it.
Mine was completely random. I was doing an obstacle course. It was like a 5 kilometer, like, you know, you go through the
Spartan
mud,
racer.
you jump over the fire, whatever. And I was in the beer garden at the end, and I had this, and it was like a Spartan where I had this like big Spartan hat on. I was covered in mud, and someone came up to me and they said, you look like you'd be good at playing American football. And I was like, well, I don't even know what that is. And so I went and started playing for a local team. They were recruiting for a local team, and I trained with them for like 2 or 3 months, and then the LFL came out, so I trialed with a couple of hundred other girls, and I made the starting 40, and then I got a contract with with my state, so it was just really random.
Yeah, so was mine.
Next thing you know, you're the female Rob Gronkowski.
Exactly.
Quincy plays tight end.
Yeah.
And for saying beer garden the way you said it, we gotta do a shot. When you heard the word NFL, what did you think of? Did you know any players? Like, did anybody come to mind, or teams, or like what came to mind when you heard the word NFL back when you were in Australia?
You know what? It's really funny because all the girls that started playing football with me at the same time, no one knew. So everyone was like, "What's your team? What's your team?" I was like, I don't know any. The only NFL player I knew was Reggie Bush because he dated Kim Kardashian, and I was like, he is so fine.
This is the stuff I'm talking about. I want to know what leaves the country, and that's it right there. That's what leaves.
So that was for me. Like I was like, that was a player that I knew, and I thought that he was obviously very attractive. So I was like, and he was playing for the Miami Dolphins, so I picked the Miami Dolphins as my team then, and I got like the Miami Dolphins hat, and I was like, and then I came.
And he
to
wasn't
America.
even very good with the Dolphins at
No,
all.
and the Dolphins weren't that good, and I, got to America and I realized that I'd made a fatal error.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? One Sunday, my dad was watching a game, and I saw him watching. It was the Chargers versus someone. I can't remember who it was. And this was a long time ago. This was 2007. LaDainian Tomlinson was the running back for the Chargers at the time.
And he was great.
And he was amazing. I think he just came off an MVP season.
Yep.
And I watched this one play. They handed the ball off to him, and he like did this little juke spin move thing and scored. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, who is this guy? And I asked my dad about him, and like I was young then, so I put on my MySpace page that I love LaDainian Tomlinson.
Shout out to MySpace. I actually saw a story about LaDainian Tomlinson where they went back to the hometown in Texas where his family's from, and they went to the house where his family were actually living as slaves, and he was there, and he was like very moved. It was
That's
one of the
crazy.
more interesting shows I've seen.
Because he went to TCU, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I remember.
She knows her stuff.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to move across the world and play a sport that they don't pay women to play? Anywhere in the world, as far as I know, women don't get paid to play American football.
Yeah.
What motivated you? Like, besides wanting, I mean, you could have done that in Australia. Why? What made you make such a big move?
I actually had a rough first 2 games in the LFL, and I actually ended the season a lot better than how I started. And then the season ended, and then the league ended, and I felt a little bit unfinished. I was in university at the time trying to finish my business degree. I had a year left, and yeah, I just felt unfinished. And a couple of the coaches from America had actually reached out to me and said, hey, have you ever considered coming to America to play? And I never had it until that point. So they had invited me over to meet with a couple teams. So I did like a little tour, like if you want to say it. So I met with Atlanta, Omaha, Las Vegas, and Toledo, because I played with Tamar in Australia. So I actually knew her, and she played for Toledo at the time. She was like, yeah, come over. So I came over, I met with Atlanta, Omaha, Las Vegas, and Tui was actually the head coach of Las Vegas at the time. So that's how I knew Tui, and then that's how he invited me out to LA. So he had already seen me seen me train. So I ended up picking Atlanta. It was my favorite out of all of them. And I was a little bit nervous because I was doing my business degree online while I was in America. So I just thought I'll just go out there for one season and see how I do, see how I compare to everyone. Just because I just felt so unfinished, and I was like, you know what, I want to see how I compare to the American girls, like the most elite.
Yeah, I mean, mine's completely different. It was just so random. Like, I don't have any like specific, like I was, building an online business, and I had a boyfriend, and my life back home was like really great, and I just like woke up and I was like, I don't know, like I just want to like go out there. And at the time, my boyfriend, he was like super supportive. He was like, go and do it, go out for a season, you loved playing, like get it out of your system. And I came over, like I just like kind of put everything on ice. It was like a very quick turnaround, and like within like a couple of weeks I was like, I don't ever want to like go home permanently. Like I was like, I love it here, I love playing, I love the girls, I love the people. So I kind of knew right away, like I wanted to keep going.
Same with me. The lifestyle was just amazing. Being able to train and go to practice, and like that was my entire life, was so amazing. I just knew straight away, I was like, this is what I want to do.
So let's talk about Jacinda Buckley's recent article. You guys didn't read that? Marissa showed it to me.
I know.
No, I haven't seen it.
My girlfriend Marissa's a teammate of theirs, and Jacinda was her quarterback before Jayne came. And Jacinda is also from Australia, and her background.
She was Quincy's quarterback.
Yeah, so I played with her my first season.
In Australia?
Yeah, we won the championship together.
So she wrote an article in something that basically reminded me of the Players Tribune, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
It was something similar to that for different athletes, I guess. And she criticized the league for exploiting women, some of the stuff you guys have heard before. She thinks that it exploits women. What do you guys think?
I think that there are some elements, like no system is perfect, so there are some elements where you could say that our time and energy is exploited, but not a lot of women's sports pay. We know what we're getting into coming into this. It's not paid and we're not forced. So they're not exploiting us because we choose to play and we love playing and we love the bonds that we have with the girls that we play with. Obviously, we would love to get paid, and a lot of women in all sports would love to get paid. But I think that to say that it's exploiting us, no. Obviously, we put a lot of time and effort into it, and we spend our own money making it happen. But we do it, like, especially Jayne and I, like, we have a very specific goal. We're building our brands. We're living in a different country. We're meeting new people. We have some amazing experiences. So for us, we're making the most of a really cool opportunity. So you can look at it like, oh, I'm getting exploited, but
yeah, exactly. It's a platform, and we're utilizing that platform to build ourselves up and to build our careers up for when we do stop playing. So I have no complaints. No one's holding a gun to our head and saying you have to wear this. This is the most elite league for what we're trying to do currently. And yes, they're not paying us, but you know what? I want to play with the best of the best, and that's just what it is.
I think it's interesting that people think it's in some way sexually exploitive. There's many women's, I mean, as far as like what you wear, and they market it in a kind of sexy way or whatever you want to call it. They used to call it the Lingerie League. A lot of female sports dress the same. It's just not marketed the same way. You have track and field and volleyball. They don't wear much when they play. Gymnastics. Nobody has an issue with any of those sports, but people talk about this like, oh my God, it's so...
And that's the difference. Like, if you want to play in the outdoor league, you're more than welcome as long as you have the funds.
I think there's some type of major crime going on right now.
There's a bank
they need some detectives.
There's a bombing or something. There's sirens that will not stop trying to record this. It's tough to keep it a hundo.
And no one's forcing us to wear that uniform. If you want to play full kit, there are full kit leagues out there. So anyone who's saying they're exploiting us because of the uniform, you don't have to wear it. There are other leagues you can play in if you love playing football.
But the difference is you have to pay $500 a season to play. You have to buy your own equipment. You have to buy your own airfares and traveling to go to those away games and everything like that. Whereas this league, they provide everything for us. We don't have to spend money to travel. They pay for all of our expenses when we have away games.
So this might border on the line of being exploitive. You can get cut from the league for being too fat or too skinny. That's correct, right?
Yes.
In a way, yes.
If you're out of shape.
Yeah. But the league is very fast-paced, so if you're not fit and you're not working out and you're not like making your body strong and fast, you're not going to be able to compete in the league anyway, so you're not going to be able to start.
Yeah, and they don't just cut you straight away. They'll give you they'll contact your head coach. They'll be like, hey, this girl is out of shape. We're going to reevaluate her situation in 2 weeks. So she has 2 weeks to, kind of get into shape.
Get it together.
Leading into...
Yeah, so they don't just cut you straight away. They give you an opportunity to...
And it developed from models running around as a halftime show to a very athletic league. So, they're trying to attract girls who are very athletic. And there are girls, if you watch the league, there are big girls, there are small girls. Everyone's got a different body shape. I'm not small at all. And I play on the line, so obviously I'm a little bit bigger than, a lot of the players.
You're a beast, Quincy.
Yeah, exactly. No, but, I mean, as long as you look like you're lifting weights, you're working out.
Athletic, And... it is a big difference between 7-on-7 arena to 11-on-11 full field. I've played both, and I noticed when I was out there with the 11-on-11 girls, my conditioning was a lot better. I was a lot faster than them. If I could get to the edge, then I knew that they were beat. So if they did come and play for the LFL, they would notice that it's a lot faster paced game. So,
but it isn't about being able to run a mile in a certain amount of time. It's about the way you look.
Yeah,
it's about the way you look more than.
And you're wearing a uniform that is very exposing. So, I mean, if you look good, you feel good, I think you play good, I think it kind of flows on. You know what the uniform is going in, so you're not going to run out.
I'll be honest, though. Some of the worst shaped guys are some of the best players in the NFL. I mean, certain positions.
Yeah. Offensive linemen,
the way they look. Some of the guys who are big, muscly guys aren't always the best at what they do either.
But those guys that are really good in the NFL that have those big bodies, they still work out all the time.
Yeah.
They're still very athletic. They're strong. They're lifting and stuff. They're not literally just going from the couch to playing. You know what I mean?
That's true.
They are still working really hard, but their body type is very different.
Yeah.
So,
it's a good point.
So, I mean, you've got, each individual, I don't know specific girls who haven't, but I know in Australia there was a girl that was was told she couldn't play on game day, and there was a lot of stuff leading up. And there was a whole lot of uproar about it, and I remember seeing her afterwards, and she had this giant bag of McDonald's, and she was stuffing her face, and I just thought...
Drink. You got to drink. You just said McDonald's.
No, we say Macca's. You guys say Mickey D's, we say Macca's.
Yeah, so, well, I don't even have a drink right now.
Yeah, I might have to refill.
All right, I'll fill you up. But let's talk about the unstoppable force that's known as the fans. Jacinda referred to them in her article. I keep going back to this article because it was interesting. You know, she shed some light on some things. She mentioned how the fans, it's like their first time being around women of your caliber. So it gives them a chance to meet beautiful women, be around beautiful women, and maybe gives them confidence. She kind of spoke about it in a positive way. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that like our feedback and our interaction with the people who follow us has been really, really cool. Like, I think that they're really appreciative that we get back to, like, we try and get back to as many people as we can. I mean, we don't have the followings that some people do.
Yeah, I think we have a great fan base. Like, Quincy and I, it was our first season in Chicago last year, and after our first home game, we did the autograph signing with the fans, which we do after every home game, and there were people there with signs with 15 and 20, and I was like, we're new here and we didn't even know that we had fans in Chicago, and it was just so amazing. It was like one of the best feelings ever. I was just like, wow, they know us, they know who we are. We came here, it's our first year here in Chicago, a new town, new city, new team, and we have some, like, there's people out there who really are fans of us.
One thing I would say about fans or sports fanatics in America is you guys are like crazy. Like, it's so funny. You guys get so into it.
It's worse than the Aussie fans.
It's so different. Like, you guys are so involved in your sport. Everyone has the merchandise. Everyone's talking about it. It's like so ingrained. Like, being a part.
It's a big part of the pop culture.
It's like a family. Oh, you support this team. Oh, we have that kinship. Like, it's totally different back home.
It is. It's a kinship.
Yeah, and you know when I did realize that is when Quincy and I, we went to Buffalo, New York. We wanted to see Niagara Falls, so we went to a Bills game while we were out there. And
those fans are nuts.
They're crazy. It was snowing. It was raining. It was freezing. Cold. They were out there tailgating. They're like,
shirts off.
Yeah, they were just crazy. They're like, no matter what, we're out here supporting our Bills, and they're not even a winning team. Let's be honest. And
they've never won a Super Bowl.
Exactly. I mean, they've been in 4, but didn't they lose all of them?
Yeah, all 4 in a row.
Touchy subject.
Not for me.
But yeah, so they were out there, and it was freezing, and it was snowing, and it was raining. It was just crazy, and they were still out there. They're out there every single home game.
This is to the Buffalo Bills.
To the Buffalo Bills.
It's another losing season.
Whereas in Australia, if you go to a rugby game and there's a slight drizzle, there's no one in the stands. I'm sorry, everyone's staying at home.
So the coaching in the LFL, you have Coach Hack coaching the Bliss. Has a strong background, played at Indiana, coached in the Arena League. He has a great coaching resume. Do all the coaches in the LFL have this type of background, or do you feel like it differs from team to team? Because some of these teams that go out there look like very unprepared.
Yeah.
I 100% think that we're very blessed to obviously be in Chicago. We have the Hack Pack, the boy band that we call our coaching staff here. We have 7 or 8 coaches in Chicago.
Yeah, which is unheard of. Especially, I've bounced around a few teams, and I can tell you that's unheard of.
I was fortunate in Australia. We had a really great coaching staff. They all had a really, really, really cool history with football, even though they were in Australia. And I had a specific O-line coach who I absolutely loved, Miz, and like it was very specific. And then when I went to LA, I didn't have any one-on-one coaching. So it was very different. I think that the offensive coach in LA didn't have a football background.
No, he didn't. He's never played football in his life. He's a baseball player.
It wasn't that specific. So coming back to Chicago, we have a really cool tight end coach, which is good because we get that specific work.
Yeah. Well, when I was in Atlanta, all of the coaches there did have a football background. The head coach, Dane, he went to the University of Buffalo, and he also played in the Arena League. And same with his assistant coaches. They all were in somewhat of a high level of football. So it was very organized and prepared there. When we did go to LA, like Quincy said, the OC didn't have a football background, so it was hard for him to relate to us on a football perspective just because he's never played before. He tried to give me advice on being a quarterback, but had never played the position. He had an arm because he played baseball, but had never played the position. Yeah, it was very different. So coming to Chicago and having Coach Pike, who obviously played at Purdue and then played in the Arena League, he actually played the position, so he could relate to you and empathize, and that was just so much better having someone on your side. Obviously, Hack yells at me a lot. You guys probably saw in the film last year. But having him on my side at practice was really good because it's hard when you haven't played the position to understand what you're going through.
So I just got a notification on my phone that the active shooter at the YouTube headquarters was a female, and she's been killed.
Wow.
So that leads me to the question, what do you guys think coming over to the U.S. and just seeing all this mass shootings going on? Like, does this happen over there? I mean, I know it doesn't happen to this level, but...
Well, we'll give you some history on Australia. Australia actually had one of the biggest massacres in the world, in world history, right? It was still to this day the biggest massacre. After that massacre, they banned guns in Australia, and we've never had anything like that ever since.
So they abolished them, the gun law changed, that everyone had to hand back
the gun laws are like they are in the UK?
Yeah,
where,
like
nobody has...
Like, if you're a license, like, you go and get a gun license, you can have, like, a registered rifle, or you're a hunter, you live on a farm, those kind of things, but you can't go into any store and buy a gun. Like, no one has guns, no one has them in their houses. Like, it's just it's very uncommon for us. Like, that's one thing. Like, and I mean, we respect America and how you guys do things. That's how you do it. So, like, we're not here to try and say,
but it is very shocking. It is a culture shock to come here and see multiple school shootings since I've been here. There was actually one in Carolina when I was in Atlanta. My parents were really worried when they saw that on the news. And I was like, Carolina's a fair distance away from Atlanta, but still they were very worried. And it was just so crazy that after all of these multiple school shootings, multiple like massacres, and there's still nothing has changed to the gun laws or anything like that. It's
I don't know.
I
think maybe you have to stop making the people that are responsible for the shooting, stop making them a superstar on TV. Maybe you don't announce their name.
Yeah, they're
Something
nobodies.
They want to make a name. They want to become famous or infamous.
Yeah.
And they succeed every time.
It's quite interesting that you said it was a female, because I feel like, I don't know what the history stats are, but I feel like
that's very uncommon.
It's very uncommon for a female. She lost her shit.
Yeah, someone did her wrong. She was out there,
you know
like,
what? It probably wasn't even anything to do with mass shooting. He was probably shagging someone in the YouTube office.
Yeah. That's probably what it was.
Don't mess with her.
You got a drink, though. You just said shagging.
Oh, okay.
Nobody in the U.S. says shagging.
Oh, we were actually just talking about this the other day, like what
What
kind of words that we use to like refer to like sex.
Yeah, so what do you guys got?
Root. We say root.
Oh, you rooted her? Or
you
guys
rooted? Oh yeah, or are you gonna get a root tonight?
Yeah. Or
really?
Yeah.
I've heard it used as like guys will refer to their penis as their root.
Oh, well, maybe that's.
I've heard that.
That's where it came from.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's not common either. But I've heard that.
Yeah, that's huge in Australia.
We have
Everyone
a lot
says
of
that.
funny words that you guys don't use.
Yeah.
You guys use like banged, smashed.
Yeah.
Those things.
That's more American.
Yeah, but I think you would still say, yeah, we banged.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't.
They would use the
hit
F
that.
word.
You hit that. Stuff
No,
like that.
that's American.
All that stuff. You don't use any of that.
We use F-U-C-K.
Yeah.
I think the whole world uses
Yeah, I
that.
think that's the general.
And make love. Don't
Yeah.
forget
Of
that one.
course.
Don't forget
Of
that.
course.
Okay, I really have to pee. Like, really bad.
So Jayne's back. She just went and peed in the men's room.
Desperate times.
That's right. So is getting paid the end goal?
Somewhat not for us, because I feel like we have maybe 1-2 years left in the league, and we can see how the league is developing and how they're rebranding themselves and how they're selling individual teams. So eventually each team will be privately owned, and that owner will pay girls. That's probably going to be outside of our era.
So you feel like you're pioneers. You're setting the groundwork.
We're setting the groundwork for future generations. Our daughters down the track will probably be able to be paid if they wanted to play in this sport, which is fine with us. But we are using the platform to get paid by sponsors, doing different like
social media,
influencing, those type of things. Like we are trying to monetize our time here, but not through the league itself.
And obviously, if Chicago gets bought next season, then that will change our mind on things. You know, we'll be like, okay, well maybe we will play for a couple more
seasons can we squeeze out?
Yeah.
Like as it stands, we probably wouldn't continue to play long term, but if things
with the way it's going, because we can't afford. But the time that you have to put into this league to play a season it's a lot of time and effort, and it's hard to, you know, like work and do other stuff when you have, like, you know, if you need to go out of town to do an event or something and you have practice Sunday and Wednesday, it's hard to go out for the week. You know, you have to fly out Sunday night after practice, come back in Wednesday morning, and it's tiring. You know, like I do that a lot with my boyfriend living out of town, and it is very tiring. So it is hard. So at the rate that it's going, I don't see many more years for me. But if the team does get bought and they take care of us better, then, you know, that obviously changes a lot of things.
Yeah.
You're basically the Satchel Paige and Jackie Robinson of the league, right?
Yeah.
Does that mean anything?
Yeah, I've seen the movie 42. So
Oh,
I
okay.
love
You
it.
know Jackie Robinson.
Yeah, I do
All
know
right.
who Jackie Robinson is.
All right, we've reached the Keeping It a Hundo segment of the show.
I'ma keep it 100.
I hope you're ready, because there's no bullshitting now.
Okay.
You can't give these roundabout
I need another
explanations.
shot. I need another shot.
We got you. We got plenty left. So keep it a hundo with me.
Okay.
If you were a stripper, what would your stage name be? Quincy, you're first.
Coco.
Yes, that
Coco.
is so her.
I'm surprised it's not cinnamon.
I do love cinnamon, but I think her name turned out to be poison.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, her name did turn out to be Poison.
I don't think I would be a poison. I'm definitely a Coco.
I haven't even thought of mine. I'm trying to think.
Well, I mean, I didn't think of that as my stripper name.
You think about
You know
that
what?
while I pour her
Mine's-
another shot.
Mine's gonna be Jelly.
Jelly Jane? Oh, just jelly.
Jayne got the jelly.
No, because yesterday was peanut butter and jelly day. Did you see the interview with LeBron and Dwayne Wade?
I did not.
Oh, okay. So like, there was an interview with LeBron and Dwayne Wade, and Dwayne Wade was like, "Oh, you're peanut butter, I'm jelly."
I heard them call each other that.
Yeah. So it was
shit's
funny.
whack.
'cause
And
it was like-
Jayne wanted to be jelly, and I wanted to be peanut butter. And we're like, oh, okay, so we're peanut butter or jelly. It's fine. Like,
Yeah,
we didn't have to
so-
fight over it. I was like, I'm definitely peanut butter.
Listen, you don't want to be known as being easily spreadable.
Yeah, Jelly Jayne.
All right. Which teammate would you hate to be stuck in a car with on a road trip, and why? Good
How
shit.
many of our teammates watch this show?
Cheers, mate.
You want a little bit?
Oh yeah, I'll have a little bit. I guess I should join the crew.
A little mini one?
Yeah, a little mini one. A half one.
Great.
So there's nobody to throw under the bus.
Matt Pike. No.
Quarterback
keeping
coach.
it 100.
Quarterback coach. Just keeping it 100. Like, he would probably be driving all over the road.
Which teammate spends the most time getting ready? Hogs the mirror. Because I know you guys don't have a big locker room.
I think Telly.
Yeah, Telly, probably Chrissy.
Yeah, I
But
can
see that.
They've got like a really cool beauty routine.
Yeah, but
like,
their
look
makeup is
immaculate.
bomb, and yeah, they're always the last ones in the
Yeah.
in the bathroom when we're all trying to get ready for photos and stuff like that.
White Christmas or sunny Christmas? Because
White
you guys have...
Well, we've never had a white Christmas.
Oh, we
were
haven't.
supposed to have a white Christmas this year, but we ended up having to go home. So I've only ever had a sunny one. I mean, it
Yeah.
rained a
Christmas
But I
at home
want-
is,
but
what,
it's sunny.
70, 80 degrees?
like 100.
That's crazy.
So we have the opposite season. It's summer in
Yeah.
Australia. Like,
So like your guys' Christmas tree is like a nice pine tree. Ours is a fan.
no,
I like
for
that.
Like,
In
we
the summer.
want to do a white Christmas.
Yeah, we
like,
really want a
were
white
thinking we were going to
Christmas.
have a white Christmas at Reggie. She ordered
Yeah.
us all like ugly jumpers, the dilly
Yeah, the
jumpers.
ugly
And
sweaters.
were you in Detroit for Christmas this year?
No, I was in Australia, Thailand. I was in Thailand
Oh,
for
okay.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was back home with my family, which was cool. I love my family, but I really want to spend a white Christmas here,
I
like
want
Home
to do
Alone.
it in New York with like the
Yeah.
floor-to-ceiling windows in the snow and go
Yeah,
for a
well,
ride.
I actually spent Christmas in New York a couple of years ago with my family, but it didn't snow. It was raining. It didn't snow, so it wasn't a white Christmas, but it was still beautiful. We went to the Rockefeller Center. It was nice, but it wasn't snowing.
Are either you related to Crocodile Dundee?
I mean,
I'm half Asian, so I don't think so.
Yeah.
my grandma looks like a croc. No, unfortunately not.
All right, next question. Which teammate talks the most shit on the field?
Shabria? No.
No, but talks a shit on the field. She talks shit like all the
All
time,
the time,
like about
yeah.
everything.
But she keeps it going on the field.
No, on the field probably. Like, well, it's defensive line. Like, this is like the D-line territory. Like, O-line
Yeah.
doesn't talk shit.
Offense don't really talk shit, I
Telly.
don't think.
Yeah,
for
Telly, Marissa, Kristen. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if Kristen even opens her mouth. On
No.
me.
Does
I don't think so.
Marissa talk shit?
I don't know because we didn't go
Yeah,
up
we-
against her. I mean, at practice she does.
Yeah, well, you would know better than I do because you go up against the D line. I wouldn't
She
have
talk
a clue.
shit at home, I'll tell you that.
That's so funny.
What's the creepiest thing a fan has said to you? I know that they tell you at least 3 times a week that you can tackle me anytime.
Oh,
I've
they
seen
do.
that on the comments on
They do
Marissa's,
say
on
that a lot.
anybody's.
I actually have friends back home who, when they're feeling really down, they go to my page and they read the comments and they search them up. They're like, what are these people on
Okay,
about?
this guy actually messaged me and he said, I will pay you to sniff your feet after a workout.
There you go. That's the type of stuff you just earned a free shot.
Yay!
That's how you keep it a hundo, Jayne.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait.
We need more feet sniffing conversations. That's creepy.
And I said to him, I'm like, well, if I could send that smell through mail, then pay up.
Send him some socks. Ship him some socks, but charge him. Tell him to PayPal you
Well,
first.
actually, there's a guy in Miami who will pay for our underwear after a game.
Oh, I believe that. Of course he's in Miami.
And you do not want those underwear after
After
a
a
game.
game,
You know,
jeez.
not only is it sweaty, but we have fake tan from, like, you know, we tan up before the game. They look like, it's like,
I'm pretty sure Marissa doesn't tan before the game.
yeah, no. And you know what's actually funny? This is the first time in Chicago we're trying to get a tanning sponsor before the game. You get tanned up, but there's about 3 of us that need a tan in Chicago. That's it. So, like, we're kind of a minority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chicago's roster is a little darker than other teams.
Yeah, but we love
That's
that.
why it's so bomb.
Yeah.
That's why you're the best team in the league. How does Reggie feel about the fans? Reggie is Jayne's boyfriend.
Yes. I show him some of the messages and he thinks it's funny. But he knows at the end of the day that I'm coming home to him, so it doesn't bother him at all.
Well, what are you doing in between? Are you spending time with these fans?
I'm monitoring her, don't you worry.
I mean, only what we have to do with the league, so.
I think it's hilarious.
I think he deals with a lot more with fans than we do, so he's probably more equipped.
Yeah.
to do
It's
it.
actually me going crazy over the fans of him, not the other way around.
What's the craziest thing you saw a fan write to him?
Or just trying to pretend that their family want to meet him when really.
Oh yeah, just girls.
Reggie plays in the NBA. You can figure out who he is. There's only so many Reggies in the league. Do the math.
Yeah, and they both play for Detroit.
Exactly.
No, just girls writing on his page, like, you know, just trying to act like they know him and they're like cool with him and stuff like that. And I'm just like, he doesn't even follow you, so.
Oh, he doesn't even follow you.
It's all about
It's all
follows.
in the follow. If he's not following you, he doesn't really know you.
I mean, he doesn't go on Instagram much either, so.
Who's your celebrity crush, Quincy? Quincy's single, for those of
Yes.
you out there. Well, actually, I did receive an email from a fan. I told some people I was having a couple LFL players on. I did receive an email,
Oh.
and let me pull it up now.
Was it
Yeah.
a Kim Hicks begging for a date?
So I think Quincy just revealed her celebrity crush.
Yeah, I do have a little bit of a crush.
Yeah, we actually, on a Q&A that we did not long ago, we did this thing. What was it called?
Shoot and marry.
Root, shoot, and marry.
Oh, that's fuck, kill, marry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so root,
because
shoot,
in
and marry.
Australia it's root, shoot, and marry.
That sounds better.
Yeah, and for Quincy's one, we did all Chicago people.
Yeah. So anyway.
So what?
a king
Can you give
wins.
me your root, shoot, and what is it? Root, shoot, marry.
Root, shoot, and marry.
Root, shoot, marry.
I can't
It was.
You don't remember?
It was Akeem, a Bulls player, and
Marry was Akeem.
Yeah. 'Cause then you
What?
can have sex
Shoot,
over and
who are you
over
shooting?
and over.
you shot
Who was
the
the
Bulls
third
player.
person? No, and then I had sex with that rapper.
Which
Yeah,
rapper?
this is all.
Oh,
this is-
Chance, the rapper.
only because I wanted him to sing to me. This is all.
He's
And-
very different build than Akeem Hicks.
Yeah, I know.
That's why it's only a root.
Yeah.
It's only one night.
All right. So this is the email I received from a fan. Hey Quincy, I'm a big fan. You're very aggressive on the field. Are you as aggressive off the field? I'm 6'3", 325. I'm a big dude, but I'm a teddy bear. Would you ever share a blooming onion with me at the Outback? Signed, Huggy Bear.
Oh my
God,
God, I love
Blooming
Huggy Bears.
She does. She
You know
prefers
what?
them 300 plus. So.
Yeah, I really like my type of guy is 300 plus, but athletic, big, like snuggly bears.
Teddy
Like,
bears, big
that's
teddy
kinda
bears.
Like
That's
my,
her all the way.
Yeah. So I mean.
So he's got a shot.
But what's a blooming onion?
Oh, you're not familiar with the Outback.
No, we've never been.
So
And
you know the Outback is like
We've seen
Australian themed
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
American
never been
food.
Oh, you mean Outback Steakhouse?
Yeah.
Oh God, that is not Australian. That's American.
No, it's Australian themed, but it's corny American food.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have bloomin' onions in Australia. Just letting you guys know. It's
Oh,
an FYI.
I'm pretty sure they don't have
I mean,
everything on the
I'm
menu.
open to free food.
It's a big onion ring that looks like a flower.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
It sounds like Huggy Bear's interested though.
Yeah, I mean,
Sounds
Huggy
like
Bear,
it's
what's
on
your Instagram?
I'll give you that off air.
Don't call him out.
Who would win a steel cage match between the two of you?
Me.
Quincy.
Quincy's got it.
100.
100.
Yeah. Quincy's got the strength and the
Quincy
size
does
on
have
you.
the
My
shape.
job is to protect her. It would be a bit weird if she was stronger than me.
Okay.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
fair.
I could
I
probably
think
like
that
run
Jayne-
away for a certain amount of time, but I don't know how to catch
So,
up.
Jayne,
occasions, no
She's
going.
persistent.
Jayne got gift this season. Jayne got gift this season. Are you guys familiar with what it means to get gift?
No.
No.
It's when you get like put on a poster or YouTubed, that hit on the sideline.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
I
so
remember.
Jayne was part of one of the biggest hits of the season in the
Yes.
LFL.
on the
She's a great
receiving
runner.
end though.
Yeah, you did. But I mean, a lot of times it takes somebody who gives a good hit to make a good hit.
Yeah.
So you were coming full speed at this girl, and she lit you up.
Yeah, she did. I didn't even see it coming, to
But
be
the
honest.
thing is that Jayne received a ball, like it was a fumbled ball, so she was running kind of
Oh,
on
it wasn't
the fly.
fumbled. It was just a high snap.
It was
like,
a
went
high
over my
snap,
head. Yeah.
and the defense, like the offense, it was kind of a messy play. So she ran into it standing straight up, because that girl wasn't that big. If you had dropped your
She
shoulder-
definitely got lower than me, and she hit me. I actually
Clear.
busted my lip and chipped my tooth. So luckily, Ali is
remember.
a dentist on our team. Ali Albert, she's a dentist, so I was able to go see her the next day to get my tooth fixed. But yeah, that girl lit me up, and I did not see her coming. And I was like off foot, and yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, she got me.
Allie's a dentist during the day and chugs beers on the field at night.
Yeah. She's bad. She's really
Yeah.
bad. She's actually the girl that's super like known in the league. She chugged the bear at halftime, so people probably know her. She's super cute, super nice.
I love Ali. I
Yeah,
love
same.
Ali.
Yeah, in basketball, the worst thing that can happen to
get
you is to get
crossover?
gift.
Oh,
Or that
okay.
too.
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
your ankles broke or to get gift. If
Yeah,
you get
yeah.
put on a poster or a
Oh,
gift and a dunk,
Yeah.
either one. And
Yeah.
It
And
kind of
but
happened to
yeah.
you, but
And
you know,
it's all good. I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
it
a
happens.
baptism into the
Yeah,
league.
it's all good.
Yeah. People know who you are.
Yeah.
Aussies versus Kiwis.
Kiwis.
Who's tougher?
Okay, so it depends on what sport, because if we're playing rugby union, which is our national sport, New
Kiwis
Zealand,
do dominate. Australians have won.
we dominate
yeah.
the world though. Like we win the world.
Well,
Cup.
it's Australian and Kiwis. It's always them in the finals
That's
in
interesting
the Rugby
because
World Cup.
Australia has a lot more people than New Zealand, right?
But that's our
Yeah.
one sport. Like rugby league. Rugby.
Yeah.
Is-
Rugby union.
Rugby
so
union.
top 3 sports in Australia:
Rugby, cricket,
And AFL.
AFL. Australians actually won the
Whereas
cricket.
in New Zealand, it's rugby, netball.
AFL is Australian football.
Australian rules football, yeah.
And in New Zealand, it's just rugby union, rugby league, and netball. But
What's the
rugby-
difference between rugby union and rugby?
Rugby league have 13 players aside. Rugby union have 15. There's slightly different rules.
Okay.
A little
But
bit faster.
yeah,
but-
rugby union. So how it started back in the day, rugby league was like the amateur sport, and rugby union was the professional. So rugby union is known as the more elite, the more classy rugby. But now it's
But rugby
whatever.
union in my country, like live, breathe, die by it. Like
The Rugby World
the All
Cup,
Blacks
yeah.
is our team. That's the name of the team, the All
Yeah,
Blacks.
yeah,
And
I know
like,
about them.
Yeah, and they
Yeah, and the
dominate all
Wallabies
over the
are
world.
the Australian team, and they're always them two in the Rugby World Cup in anything. The Bledisloe Cup, it's always Australia and New Zealand
Yeah.
competing.
Best 2 teams in the world.
Best 2 teams in the world. Yeah. Sorry, South Africa.
So
I'm not sorry.
I mean, there's some fine honeys in South Africa.
Oh shit, Jayne's lit. She's talking about the honeys in South Africa.
So a player got suspended in the league for dating another player. Is that correct?
Yes, in the LFL. It
That
is
happened?
correct.
Who?
Did she violate an anti-gay rule in the league, or can you just not date within the league? Because I know that you have people in the league that date coaches.
Yes.
I mean, I'm
Players
not going
date
to comment on it
coaches.
because I actually have no idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, I honestly, I didn't know if the league, if it was the fact that it was 2 girls dating, I didn't know if that was the reason that they got suspended, but
From what I know,
no
there
idea
are
what the league are
multiple
thinking.
lesbian couples within the league. Loads
Yeah.
of them. So I don't.
And they didn't get suspended.
So why did those 2 get suspended?
They're the
That's
most
right.
high profile.
Very
the
strange to
2
me.
high
We don't
profile players
know.
in the league. We have no idea what went down,
like
what
we
the league
actually
were
should
thinking.
find out about that.
Yeah.
I don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah,
But I know that there's like, and sometimes I didn't even know. Like sometimes you can be on a team with loads of lesbians. They're not like
Yeah.
lesbians like creeping on you like how guys would be in the locker room trying to
Yeah,
like,
I
you know,
mean,
check-
you know what? They're actually more forward than some guys. I actually went to Gay Pride Weekend in Miami. Unknowingly went with my teammates, and I was the only straight person. Didn't know at the time. Found out when I got there.
It's
We
Gay Pride
we
Month.
drove from Atlanta to Miami,
Yeah.
and yeah, I didn't know. I found out the hard way. But anyways,
Oh,
let's not
okay,
go there.
got dominated
What's your death row meal? Quincy first.
If you knew me, you would know that I am the biggest foodie. Like I
Don't say Vegemite.
Oh no, no
Okay.
way.
No,
That's
no,
that's
no.
way down the tier. Lascarola in Chicago, they have the most amazing prawn pasta. Like I literally dream about that. But then I would also want a side of fish tacos from.
No, you can't. You just took Italian food and Mexican food and mixed
But
them
it's
up.
our last meal,
You
so
can't
we
do
can
it.
have whatever
You
we
can
want.
do
You have to pick
you do
one
what you
meal.
want when you're popping, Maddie Hundo.
No,
You can do
can't.
what you want when you're about to die.
When you're,
This is what someone told me in Australia. When I got to LA, and my confidence wasn't as like great, and like I would get dressed to go out because the girls here like they dress how they want it, like how they want to express
they do
themselves.
what they want.
Whereas like back home, like I would, I don't know, like I analyzed it too much, and then I would put on an outfit and I'd be like, does this look alright? And the girl would be like, Quincy, you do what you want when you're popping.
Okay,
And she's
yeah.
basically saying if you
Yeah.
Your
if
shit's
you
popping,
can,
Quincy.
if you can you can dress however you want.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So we can
if
eat
I'm
however
on
we
death
want.
row, I'll eat what I damn well please.
So you're having like shrimp scampi and shrimp tacos or
No,
something?
I'm
Fish
having
tacos? What'd you say?
fresh fish, fried fish
Tacos
tacos
from the taco joint.
No, from
Taco joint?
no.
Oh, from Sagebrush Cantina.
Sagebrush Cantina in Detroit. Just a
Okay.
little shout out for you guys. So bomb. And then I would have Lascarola pasta. I'll probably have some guacamole from La Pasita.
From La Pasadita. It's
La
on
Pasadita?
Ashland Avenue.
Just really mixing shit up right now.
Yeah.
Oh, you having the same meal?
No, mine's slightly
Okay,
different,
hold on
but
then.
mine's multiple.
Quincy, finish up. What are you having to drink with it?
I like a Moscow Mule. I like all the drinks.
Yeah.
I like everything.
Keep it with a Moscow Mule.
Yeah, Moscow Mule.
Alright.
That's good.
Yeah. Okay, so for my final meal, I'm going to have the 8-ounce filet from STK with the side of cream spinach, and also the carne asada tacos from La Pasadita, or with also guacamole from there. And also for dessert, I will have the Godiva cheesecake from the Cheesecake Factory.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'd have the banana cream pie one.
That's
So-
our final meal.
Quincy's surf and Jayne's turf.
Yeah.
Seafood.
But you
and
know
steak.
what? Everywhere we go, so if you don't follow us on social media, Jayne and I live together. We train together. We sleep in the same bed.
We literally do everything
Our
together.
life, a lot of the time, people meet us and we'll say things at the same time. It's like you guys are twins, but you looked completely different. So
Yeah.
we do everything. So our food tastes like we eat the same food. Like we know.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in a relationship with Quincy, and my side B is Reggie. But yeah, we pretty much do everything together. We eat exactly the same. We actually think we're cousins. Our
lost.
parents were adopted in the same area in Australia in the same year, so we actually think we're cousins.
Wow, that's
Long
interesting.
lost.
Yeah, long lost cousins.
Because we have so many similarities.
Sisters, cousins, best friends, girlfriends, you name
we
it.
do.
Yeah.
They're everything. Last question. Out of all your teammates' boyfriends, who's your favorite?
It's obvious. I think it's Maddie Hundo is our absolute favorite.
Yeah,
no
well,
question about it.
Obviously, we're keeping it 100. I've got to say Reggie. No, I'm joking. Well, obviously, I love
Well-
Reggie because I feel like I'm in a three-way relationship
Yeah,
with him.
Quincy's in a relationship with Reggie, so the vote is split.
Yeah, I'm Team Reggie, but I'm also Team Maddie Hundo.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 2 boys in the boyfriend club. It's not really hard. It's not like it's pretty hard to break
Yeah.
them down the middle. They've got some great.
Adrian left us. Adrian was one of the boyfriends in the boyfriends club.
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe this year I could add a boyfriend into the club.
Anything's possible, Quincy.
Anything is
Akeem?
possible.
Hello?
Hello,
Are you out there?
Testing, Akeem, testing. Can you hear me?
All right. Thanks for joining me, ladies. We're out of here.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm fully drunk.
We need to get some food in us.
That was Jayne Caldwell and Quincy Hewitt of the Chicago Bliss. They open their season on Saturday, April 14th at 7 p.m. at the Sears Center. That's in Chicago. And they're playing against the LA Temptations. And remember, Quincy is single. Feel free to slide in her DMs. You wouldn't be the first. Stay away from Jayne, though. Jayne's taken. I'll have her information up on Facebook and Instagram when I post this podcast. And for the listeners back home on the naughty North Shore, I do have some Beverly podcasts coming up. I recorded a long one with Jeff Keown, the comedian from Beverly, last week. I'm currently editing it. It will be out soon, so keep an eye out for that one. And lastly, I'd like to thank those of you who continue to share my podcast on social media. My boy London, a.k.a. 50, Anthony G., Zeus's mom, Idalia, she was overwhelmed with the reaction from the Zeus podcast. That may have been our most popular podcast so far. Thank you to Sergio, Jules Paul, and of course, Folio Sims and Carpaccio Simmons. Good looking out. See you next time on Keepin' It a Hundo.